Hello everyone, my name is Nestor Falcon and today I'm gonna give an overview about how to use RESTmon to integrate our AIOps platform from Broadcom with third-party applications. So the agenda is going to be the following. We will start with an introduction about what is RESTmon and how we can use it. Then I will explain the different features of the RESTmon Ol connector and I will get into the details for the architecture. And finally, we will go through a demo where I will show how to download, configure, and fetch data from a third-party application like Solarwinds into AIOps. So RESTmon is a key component of our DX Gateway. DX Gateway is a Broadcom tool that comprises several features in a single component. It contains our RESTmon connector, but also log collector and integration to service management platforms. The main goal of the DX Gateway is simplify integration and improve a user experience. RESTmon is the generic framework to query data via REST endpoints. The data that RESTmon can query can go from inventory, alarms, metrics, topology, and logs. We just need that a third-party application exposes the data via HTTP or HTTPS in REST format, and RESTmon will be able to query this data. We support many different authentication mechanisms, and in an agent-led fashion, we're going to be able to fetch all this data and ingest it into our DX Saas platform. So it is an excellent component to integrate with pretty much any third-party product or service and make this data available for our DX operational intelligence application. This is going to help to enrich our data lake, and it's going to help also to make our AIOps Broadcom solution completely vendor agnostic when it comes to analyze data from different domains, network, application, or infrastructure. So the RESTmon Ol connector is going to be the core of this integration. And it's going to put all this data available for noise reduction, alarm clustering, service analytics, capacity analytics, and predictive insights. If we look at the diagram, we can see the main architecture of RESTmon. We can see in the center is the RESTmon core component, which is driven by two files, let's say. One is the schema definition. The schema is just a JSON file that defines where are the endpoints that contains the data we want to pull. Like for example, if we talk about Solarwinds, the schema definition will contain all the endpoints where we can fetch the topology information, inventory, metrics, alarms, etc. We provide 20 plus different schemas out of the box to connect to the most common vendors, and we can reuse them to build new schemas in case we want to connect to a third-party application that it's not in our list of available schemas. And then the other file is the profile. The profile is how to instantiate a schema. Let's say it's just a JSON file containing the data source connection details that we can use to connect to Nagios, Solarwinds, Dynatrace, and fetch that data. So these two files are going to feed our RESTmon, and they are going to initiate the engine polling to collect data and feed it into operational intelligence. It is a very simple, easy way to configure an extremely straightforward way to integrate third-party data into operational intelligence. If we take a closer look at the architecture and starting from the bottom, we can see that we support any hybrid cloud of data because the connector can fetch data agentless into most of the well-known solutions like Elastic, AWS, Solarwinds, etc. So we will see this in the demo. So RESTmon is going to help us to seamlessly connect to third-party infra, application, or network monitoring tools and pulse metrics, alarms, inventory, and topology into our AIOps data lake. We can also ingest log data, and this data is going to be available for our operational intelligence modules for analysis and produce insights and even to trigger self-remediation actions using Atomic or any kind of automation tool and make this data available into the self-remediation loop. So how do we get RESTmon install and configure? We need to go into our DX Saas platform in the download section, and I will show this in the demo, and select the DX Gateway component. We can install it in any Windows or Linux machine, and we'll have several configuration files available that I will explain briefly here. We have the RESTmon.json that contains the DXOI connection details. Then we have a folder called schema that contains all the out-of-the-box schema that we are providing to connect to different technologies. And we also have a folder called profile. This folder contains the different profiles we can use as a template to connect to different targets. So for example, if you want to connect to Solarwinds, we can go into this profile folder, take the Solarwinds profile as a template, and just change our target host name, user, password, and tenant. So each target monitoring is going to be configured by using two files, the profile and the schema, and it's fully API driven. I will also show this during the demo. So if we want, for example, to connect to a technology like Nagios and we already have a schema available, we just need to define a profile, specify our connection details, and we are running. As I said, we provide 20 plus schemas out of the box for different technologies. So let's now do a walkthrough about how to deploy DX Gateway and monitor third-party data, in this case coming from Solarwinds, and bring that data into our AIOps platform. So we're looking now at the landing page of our DX Saas platform. So from here we can go to settings, downloads, and here we have the different components we can download. That we can see the DX Gateway. And as it says, it's going to manage all the third-party and on-premise integration for incident management, data ingestion, this is RESTmon, log ingestion, and outbound alerting using webhooks. So we can click on the DX Gateway and start the download of the tool. And then I will deploy it for this demo into a Linux machine. So we have got the DX Gateway downloaded, and I have extracted into this folder. Let's take a closer look at the different components inside of the DX Gateway. So as I said before, we have here 4 components, the log stash, the ITSM integration, and we also have RESTmon. So for RESTmon, we have several folders that are relevant for the integration. We have the schema folder. So for the folder schema, we have all the schemas we are providing out of the box for RESTmon. In the folder profile, we have all the templates to connect to different technologies. And in the folder config, we have the RESTmon.json that contains the details about how to connect to our AIOps Saas instance. So let's now take a look at how we can launch RESTmon. To do that, we go into the DX Gateway folder and we're going to launch the installer. And it's going to ask which component we want to start. So we're going to say, in this case, we want to start RESTmon. And for the rest, I'm going to say no, log stash, incident manager, and on-prem gateway. So now RESTmon has started, and we're going to access to the Swagger interface that is going to enable us to configure RESTmon via API. So this is our DX RESTmon API portal. From here, we can see all the different operations that we have available. For example, in the admin section, we can launch a get for the version and query which version of RESTmon we are using in this case. Then for the profile operation list, we have all the different operations we can do to work with profiles. If you remember, profiles are just a way to instantiate connections to our different technologies, and to do that we use schemas. So in the schema section, we can also query all the schemas that we have available out of the box in RESTmon. In this case, if I click on try it out, I will see that we have schemas available for Nagios, Microsoft SCOM, Elasticsearch, Saas, AppDynamics, Datadog, etc. And we have Solarwinds. During this demo, we will connect to a Solarwinds instance and we will see that data available in AIOps. So to summarize, as I said, profiles and schemas are the core components to define a connection and start monitoring a third-party application. One of the nice things of downloading the DX gateway from our Saas platform is that the OI connections comes predefined. We don't need to create it. So when I go to this operation and I do a fetch, it's going to show me all the URLs and connection details where we want to send the data. In this case, it's our Saas tenant. So this is already pre-configured for us. We don't need to edit that. However, for this demo, as I said, we want to connect to a SolarWinds instance. So what I'm going to do is to define a profile to connect to SolarWinds. The best thing we can do to define a new profile is to use the profile templates. They are available in the RESTmon folder in the profile folder. So here we can open the SolarWinds profile, and you can see here we define how we're going to connect and where is that instance. So we need to specify the host name, port, the type of authentication, user and password. And having that ready, we can define our profile. So I have that ready here in Notepad. I have masked my user, password, and my tenant ID. And I'm going to copy this profile definition and send it into the RESTmon configuration. To that, I come to the Swagger API profile section. And here in the post, I'm going to add a new profile. So I'm going to click on try it out. And we expect to see there a 201 status code. In this case, because I have already created the profile, I will probably get a message about that. There we go. It says that this profile already exists, no problem. But in any case, after this moment, without restarting the RESTmon, we should start collecting data from our SolarWinds instance. So as you can see, we have different elements here grouped by technologies. So we have several components running. And what I'm going to do now is to show you this data in our AIOps solution. So what is happening here behind the scenes, we have our RESTmon engine querying SolarWinds and pumping that data into operational intelligence. So let's take a closer look. So we go into our Saas platform, DX Operational Intelligence. And I'm going to start by looking into performance analytics and filtering by SolarWinds. There we go. We start seeing data from SolarWinds. And if I select this one, for example, I can choose metrics. And I can see all the data available that is being collected from SolarWinds. Now we can even create services that are made of cross-domain technologies. So we can, for example, import data from SolarWinds for the network, Nagios for the infrastructure, and DX application performance management for the application part. So we're going to filter here by source product. So I'm going to specify that I want to filter by product. And as you can see, we have data from Nagios also being collected from RESTmon, but also from SolarWinds. And clicking on this button, we can see how nice RESTmon has collected all the different components, but not only inventory, also the relationships and the topology. So we can add SolarWinds to my service, give it a name, and then start creating my service. So I have added my network part. Now I can add the application component if needed. And we can also add the infrastructure element. So this is going to help us to build a service made of elements from Solarwinds or any third-party application that is coming through RESTmon. And we can also leverage the EX dashboard to check what kind of third-party application data is coming into our AIOps platform. In this case, as you can see, we are getting data from Solarwinds, but also from Nagios using RESTmon. So if you need more information, please check our DX Saas documentation where it explains how to ingest third-party data using RESTmon. And that's all. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video has helped you to see how easy and how straightforward it is to get data from third-party applications into DX Operational Intelligence and build cross-domain services using our DX RESTmon connector.